What's up, guys? This is Larfen. I'm making a new episode of my video CnC series. I missed last week because I messed up and I suck, so I'm going to make 2 videos today. I'm going to release them both today, and you guys are going to get made up for that, alright? Alright, so let's look at the first replay. This is Did a Split Cap because split caps are pretty cool in my opinion by Gargon555. So, obviously by the name, this is going to be a split cap replay. It's more of a cap split because he does the decap first, untraditionally, but that's okay, we'll take those. So, let's take a look at this. In the opener, he goes down to a pose, like he should, to get more momentum out of his opener. Openers in general should pretty much always start by going lower, or because from your starting position you really can't get that much momentum out of anything unless you're doing a snap kick. It's almost always better to lower yourself first in your opener, and you'll see a lot of people do that, and it's for good reason. So he lowers himself and then brings his arm over for a little spin thing. Pretty nice. What I don't like about this is this replay. You can see for the first a long time, it seems like he just has his shoulders held, and that doesn't seem like a very good choice to me. Like, if you can look at this, maybe like the first 300 frames or so even are all with held shoulders, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a held style, but there's just not enough variety in the entire beginning section of this replay that I think is good in an artistic sense. Sorry. The arms held, it just doesn't seem like a good choice in my opinion. I think he should raise and lower his arms a bit, like not just like waggle them around aimlessly, but just try and use them to help you spin more, because the more you use your entire body to help you make your replay, the better it's going to look. So, but he's sort of prancing around a bit, and I mean, it is all smooth and it does flow well, but there are just some little details that don't seem like good ideas. Another thing, in addition to these held elbows, is this little spin he's doing right here on his right leg. It just doesn't really, I feel like it doesn't fit with the style of the replay. It looks more like something I would do even in one of my weird ass classic replays. But Gargon is just a weird spin to put in here in addition to the other ones that you already have, because the other spins are a lot more realistic-ish, but just like planting yourself with that held knee, in my opinion, doesn't fit well with the style that you had set up with the rest of the replay. So, after his whole opening setup, he comes in with a backhand for the decap, and you can see right there that he's got a lot of bruise on his wrist, on his forearm there, which you don't really want on your decap. I think there's no reason that he shouldn't have gotten a clean decap on that backhand. He probably could have extended his elbow a little bit later, because you're just kind of hitting Uke in the face with the wrist with this backhand, which isn't ideal. You probably want to hit him more square with your hand. So, decap could have been a little bit cleaner, and then drop down spin to a little punch right there. I didn't really like the split, honestly. I think the split sort of grazed the side too much. It doesn't seem like a strong hit. I think this replay might have been better if it was just the decap, because the split just sort of feels tacked on and is not very, it doesn't leave much of a good impact. It doesn't end the replay strongly. Not as strong. I think it would have been a lot better if you just stopped with the decap, because you had a good setup. I mean, complaints about the movement aside, the movement was pretty good. But so if you just ended with that decap, I think this replay would have been a lot nicer, just because that flow into that split was not the smoothest of all time. Then he falls into a pose at the end. I mean, nice little pose. Looks nice. So overall, it's not too bad. But I feel like there are a couple decisions that were questionable. But I feel like they can easily be remedied and some good replays can be made. Our next replay today is going to be Salty Stream from Plata Bear. It's a bit of a longer Madman replay in Sambo Gravity. So we're looking at that right now. So let's take a closer look at this. So he starts off with this opener. The extended knee on his right leg right there at the beginning, I'm not a fan of. I feel like, if you should probably like keep your knee held a bit when you're extending it like that, because when you have it partially contracted and then extend it when you're extending your leg to push yourself forward, it sort of just like locks your knee and it looks almost painful to do. Like if I saw someone do that in real life, I'd be like, why would you do that to yourself? So, I wouldn't go with that. If you kept the knee held, you could get more of your just entire foot on the ground, and that's really nice to have when you just have maximum footing on the ground. So, he launches himself forward, does a nice little spin there. I do like the knee spin. Knee spins are nice. So, launches himself forward, knee spin, and then comes in with a split punch. Split punch is good. I do like it. It looks powerful. Clean hit. Straight to the gut. And then he comes up with an uppercut boom hit, which is pretty nice. Don't think I like how he grabbed the pec right after the boom, because I've said this before, but I don't really like it when people grab after making a hit with the same hand. Just because it looks like either the hit or the grab looks tacked on to the other part. Meaning, like, it's really hard to make it look like you intended to do both the boom hits and the grab. Because when you do a grab like that, it's just sort of like, oh, my hand was already there, so I'm going to do that. I would like it. I think it looks better if you come up with like your other hand or something and grab the other piece. Just because it has its own motion, it has its own part, so it's its own part of the replay. There are definitely exceptions to this, and you can make it look good. But I think it would have been better if he had done a different follow-up to this. But that being said, doing a skeet cap with a pec is a very impressive thing to do, because pecs are like the worst fucking thing to skeet of all time. I hate them. They're the worst, but he gets a really nice skeet cap on it, and I do like it. So props to him for that. Then I don't like how he sort of drops into this jump right here, because his legs are already basically in position at this point, so you're just sort of waiting for him to land on the ground. And even then, like, once he actually does land, he sets it up even more. So if you're gonna be falling into a pose, you'd better be sure that that's the pose you're going to land in, or else that just kind of makes it look like you weren't doing what you wanted to, which is kind of the point of a replay. So you can see how he sort of contracts his right knee right as he lands there. So I think either he should have done a little bit more movement in the air before that jump, or just had his leg completely contracted from the beginning, or made it work with the partially extended knee like he had before. Because just contracting at the end makes it look a little bit twitchy. But the jump is nice, and he lands into a very nice crotch block kick, gets it right out. I do like it. So overall, it's a pretty good replay. It's got a lot of really nice flow and some nice hits. But some of the stuff I just wasn't a fan of, but it's pretty nice. So our next replay here is going to be Trigger by Ale455. It's a Madman replay in Classic Gravity. Looks pretty good. So let's take a quicker look at. Oh wait, let me let it play through real quick so I can get the speed function. 1 second. All right, we're good. Okay, so starts off with the opener. I mean, the one the one, the only, extended glutes, relax all opener. But then he tweaks a little bit at the end to bring his knees forward for a little bit of variation, which I do like having variation on that opener because it's a really good opener. I mean, if you just add a little bit of something to yourself, like I've just messed with extending and contracting my abs with it, it can make it a lot more fun to work with and make it a lot more fun to watch. So I do like messing with classic openers and doing a little bit of your own with it. So he starts off with a couple spins towards uke, which I like that first spin a lot, but I feel like the follow-up here is not as good because first off, he starts by contracting his left wrist. In my opinion, your wrist should be extended most of the time. And you see how he just sort of like extends and contracts his wrist a little bit there. I'm not a big fan of that whole wrist floppy around thing that he did there. And the punch movement, like, I don't like how he extends his wrist and his movement there. I don't feel like it fits well with the style of how he was moving. I feel like if he just sort of swung his arm around rather than punched forward, it would have looked cooler and had a bit nicer momentum to it. So, and also, the style of this spin I feel like doesn't fit as well with the opening spin, because the opening spin is very Torabash-esque in that it's a little bit surrealistic, but it looks cool and I like it. And then he sort of goes for a more stand-up, normal-looking thing, and I feel like the transition between the two styles isn't smooth, and I feel like it's a little bit scatterbrained. But, so he goes forward and gets a nice little glute hip kick, and then comes up around and gets that punch. And what I think would have been nice is if he had opted for a bit more of a destruction style. And so you can see that he pulls back on his right with his left leg there. But I think it would have been really nice if he had brought his right hand up and gotten a backhand round, like, in this area. And then also gotten the punch that he originally had right there. I feel like that would have made the replay look a lot cooler and it would have had a nice flow and I would have liked it more. But, I mean, this punch is nice. And also, in addition to that, I don't like how, because he didn't get any dismemberments with his right hand there, he should have just contracted his elbow and let it not hit anything, because then he would have had more momentum for his other punch there, and that would have been nice. So if he'd contracted his right elbow, that would have really helped a lot. But then he gets the grab, and then brings his leg up for a really nice 3DM boom right there, core plus a decap. And then gets another hook kick right there. So the two hooks at the end are pretty nice, I do like. But his arm movement right before that grab is a little questionable. Like, if you just look at this arm movement in slow-mo, it's like he's sort of waggling his arms back and forth. And it doesn't look like he has much of a purpose. He's sort of swinging them around. And whenever it hits you, like, okay, that's good then. But then two hook kicks closes it out. And then he's got a nice little skeet at the end. I do like that skeet, though. It's a really nice skeet, and it also does a dismemberment. That's a very good skeet at the end. I like that a lot. That's probably one of the highlights of that replay. That skeet is really good. But overall, a little bit of movement decisions I didn't agree with. But overall, it's a pretty solidly executed Madman. Our last replay for this first episode today is going to be Look-a-la-Zilla by Dremel. So let's take a look at this real quick. It's looking like I think this is Sambo, or maybe even like -20 gravity replay, split cap thing with two skeets. So let's take a look at this. So starts off dropping down, the extended glutes, you know it, you know the opener, and starts off with a very nice spin. I do like how he popped right into that spin, but I feel like he could have extended it a little bit more because he has very nice momentum going into that spin. Then he just sort of slows down and then drops into that generic contracted knees pose. And I used to do this kind of setup a lot, so maybe I'm a little bit biased against it, but I think that this kind of setup can be kind of boring a lot of the time, just because it's almost like it's too good. Like, I feel like it's almost cheating, because it's like, it's probably like the best way to set up a replay technically, but that makes it one of not the best ways, you know what I mean? Because it's like, best way to write a song is with a 4-chord structure. I mean, that's the easiest way to write a song, and it's successful, and it works really well. But I mean, if everyone wrote 4-chord songs, then it'd just be like, what? Why are you being so boring with this? But so he lands in that contracted knees pose and gets his split punch, and then gets a nice little hook thing and breaks off that hip part. I feel like it would have been nicer if he had maybe gotten the crotch block out that back kick. I feel like he probably could have done that, and I really like crotch block kick, so that would be nice. But in addition to him breaking that glute, he also breaks his wrist, and I'm actually fine with that because it fits with the flow. I mean, normally I would be against having something indirectly come as a result of something else and you just going with it. But I feel like in this case it works really well because it flows really nicely with the replay, because he immediately does something with it and throws it right at the head. So, and then he goes into this spin here, which is pretty nice looking. I like the look of it with the contracted knee, and then sort of lobs his other hand at the head. But I don't like the lob that he has there because it's just sort of slow moving and just sort of goes over there. I feel like he could have gotten a little bit more speed with that throw and it would have been nicer. But and then lands in really good transition to a pose. He really smoothly does that, landing on one foot and then pulling himself up. So overall, the movement in this replay I actually really liked, but some of the hits I wasn't a fan of. But that, you have really nice movement here.